mic testing. So today I'm gonna be using a voice changer as well, and my chat box is working. That's great. Don't be alarmed if I sound more like an anime girl right now. I normally sound like one, but tonight it's gonna be this afternoon anyway. So it's a different kind of stream. It's an afternoon stream, kind of rare, simply because of time zone, right? And today's topic is going to be a favorite of some people. I know a lot of people who join my Discord server actually come because they read things like Ball of Nothing, they read things like Monarch of Solitude, and they were like, oh, this author must be a dude. Well, sorry to break it to you, but I'm not. And I also actually started not by writing ML, I started writing BL. It's the other L. And no, I don't like to write FL. I've done some, well, people like what I do, but I don't like what I do, so I don't think I'll label myself an FL author like ever. So there you go. Alright, okay, just some announcement before I start the stream. A&D, I've signed, not yet. Like, it's in process of signing the A&D contract, which is non-exclusive for web novels. So those of you who actually want to read My Wife is an Eagles as well as The Liberal Assassin, they will be available soon. Join my Discord for like all the announcements that you need. And then today's guest is actually someone whom I've been waiting for like, I don't know, a year or something. It's been like a long time. So I know her back when we were in the author server for web novel. With Islinda, I think. Yeah, it's like a past CE. She's like legendary. And then BL is a huge thing among like the community over there, and she is one of the people who actually gave a author guest seminar of sorts during the Friday VCs back then. Now I don't really know what's going on, but anyways. So, just a brief introduction I will share with you. Ta-da! Okay, this is Cat. I call her Kit Kat because that was how I know her. So this is her Instagram. The link should be in the description of this video. Please go and find her out. And then she draws her own covers. So that's one thing. Okay, she draws her own covers. She's an artist and she makes costumes, like Halloween costumes for her kids, and that is really amazing. So she's like a craftsmaker, a writer, an artist, and stuff like that. So you'll get to see more of this later on when we go through it. But right now, I think I'm gonna call her and bring her on stream so that she can introduce herself to everyone. Right, give me a moment. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Oh, good night.
Hello.
Good midnight. It's midnight there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to the midnight
Welcome
hour.
to the midnight. Alright, so could you introduce yourself to the people who'll be watching this on playback? Like I said, I knew you from web novels, so maybe you want to tell us a little bit more on your writing journey, how it began, how we met, and stuff like that.
Sure. My name is Kat, and I write on tablets right now, but I used to write on web novel where I met her. And I don't know, yeah, that was about say started on there maybe. And when I first started, I was just brand new to writing. I had decided that I was kind of tired of the way certain things were being handled in LGBTQ books, and I wanted better representation for people like me. Um, and because of that, I decided that I wanted to write LGBTQ books. And then I kind of had heard of like a couple places, and mainly everyone was talking about webtoon, and I do draw, but I just didn't have the time in my life to start like a webtoon, and I knew how much that would take up time when I was already writing a novel on my own on like Google Docs. And so I kind of was looking for an avenue where you could put stories, and kind of everyone I had talked to originally when I started making friends writing, I was being kind of steered towards Wattpad, but then a lot of people were also like, if you write on Wattpad, you're not a serious writer, or you are, and lots has changed since then. So I understand that Wattpad is taken a lot more seriously. But at first, I was just like, well, I don't want to be seen as someone who's just writing fan fiction at the time. But there's nothing wrong with that. And I just didn't want somebody to accidentally mistake one of my stories for fan fiction. And so I thought I'd stay away from that site because in my brain, that site was more for that. But that's just how it was introduced to me because I didn't know anything about Wattpad at the time. So somebody had mentioned that they were writing on web novel, and that's kind of how I learned about the site. And then Web Novel contacted me after being on the site for about 2 or 3 months. And then they invited me into their Discord channel. And at the time, I hadn't even signed with them. They were just trying really hard to get me to sign.
Poaching.
And yeah, yeah, at the time, they were like, well, where do you write? And I'm like, currently, nowhere. And they said, well, we really like your story, but we have put on web novel here. And at the time, I only had like maybe 6 chapters. So there wasn't much on web novel. But um, the novel editor at the time was trying really hard, like for months.
Back then,
She tried, and but
sure. So just to clarify with the new web novel authors, okay, back then it was completely different. Web novel begs
oh
us to sign the contract, but now you guys
yeah,
beg the web novel to give you a contract. It was completely different. When was that? Like three
yeah,
years?
it was
3 years ago?
almost 3.5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I had 3 editors reach out to me because I originally said no to the first one, and I was like, no thanks.
the flex that only all
I
authors
just
can have.
yeah, so I just flat out refused. And then she kept coming back, and she was like, well, give me the outline of your novel, and if you ever need help or you get stuck on an area, like I'll help you. You can just like run ideas past me. You don't even have to sign.
Who was it? Was it Chloe or is Linda? Wait,
No, it was actually Cherry. So it was
Cherry? Oh
Cherry, and
god.
then
That was like way,
yeah,
way, way
yeah,
before. Cherry's the chief editor.
yeah.
Is she not?
She she was my original editor, the one who grabbed me, and then she kind of signed me over to Islinda when
Oh yeah,
when
it's
she left, and
Linda. It's Linda's second
yeah,
gen.
and then Izzy took over, and Izzy was trying so hard to get me to sign, and eventually,
Mm.
how she's like a total gem, and so I did eventually sign with her, and then I ended up with Chloe on my non-LGBTQ story, so I had the pleasure of working with all three, but it was really interesting for 6 months just to watch them kind of be like, come on, come over to the dark side.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's true, okay. Well, was it not difficult for you to contact Cherry? Because back then I remember it was so difficult to get them.
actually, it was really interesting. I had no trouble when they were trying to sign me getting a hold
After
of them
you
at all
sign?
because, yeah, after I signed, it was a little harder. But
Mm,
before, when I was signing, they were like chasing me like little puppies. They were really adorable.
that's not true love, you know? It's the kind of relationship whereby when they are courting you, they just show up at the door every day. Then after you
Yeah.
started dating them, they suddenly like disappeared on you for like 1 week at a time.
Yeah, and then eventually it turned into like a month, and you'd be like, hello, are you alive?
That's true.
Blink if you need help.
Yeah, yeah. I remember those days. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was really bad.
Right. I don't know how to fix the sound, Esther. Like, it's not on
Oh,
this side. It's the internet on the other side. I've changed it to US
yeah, it's my
Central.
side of the world.
Hmm. I've already changed the server on the call to her side of the world, but it's still a little bit, my ping is like 238 right now. So
Huh?
Well,
And
it's not.
mine is
Well, it's not best. I think hers is like 600 to 1,000. I am not wrong.
Yeah, so actually it's not a really well-known fact because everybody kind of looks at okay, I'm from Canada. Everyone kind of looks at our country as like the standards are free. But it's got really bad internet here. We regularly struggle to get internet in. I'm from like a big hub. So I live in a very big city and we have like fiber optic internet, but it's just kind of not as good as where you can get in the rest of the world, even though
Mm.
it's like the fastest available here.
You
So,
gotta know that Canada is like a huge country, but most the people are like living near the US borders over there. And everywhere else in the
uh,
country is
yeah.
mountain. So I'm not
Oh,
surprised.
actually, it's really flat in quite a few areas. So it's funny. We all kind of congregate into bigger cities that are almost closer to the United States than anywhere else, and then we have like just tons of really small towns and like empty space all towards the Northwest Territories
Hmm.
and the Yukon and Alaska.
Yeah, that's why the infrastructure
We're
there is kind of hard, you know. If you want to build an infrastructure, you gotta really do connecting with like the households and whatever, the grid. They don't really have
mm.
the ability to connect that grid out. Like, for example, okay, I know a little bit about internet because, I live with two engineers. So, you need satellites, okay? You need satellites for that. And then it's not just the satellite. You need the satellite to connect to the ones floating in space in the orbit over there. And not just that, you need to bring it out to the grid, like connect it to every household and give them appropriate broadband width. So even if you subscribe to this fiber optics 4G thing, it's said to be fast, which is not wrong. Okay, it's fast. But if you're cramming like 1,000 people into a very small tunnel, it's going to look like Christmas Eve shopping mall, whereby you hardly have space to walk. That's how it feels like, and that's what the internet bandwidth is like there.
Yeah, like and you can't even get like good internet in these small towns outside of like the big cities. It's only in the big cities, so everyone's using the same little bandwidth, and we're all screwed. but the little towns, they don't even have access to internet sometimes. Sometimes they just have like a little dongle that they plug into their computer that gives them temporary Wi-Fi, and they can use that for like a short amount of time. So it's like a step back like 30 years.
Yeah. Can I just try drop
Yeah,
the call, rejoin again, and then set it to your region? Like instant. See if it
sure.
improves. Okay, let me do it real quick. Okay, so I set to US Central. Is your region in US Central?
Uh, just trying to figure out where can I find that. I don't
On top right,
do this.
near the search bar, if you are not on mobile.
No, I'm on the computer. My mobile phone. I literally smashed it to pieces like 4 days ago. My new one's coming in the mail.
Wait, what? You destroyed your mobile?
Yeah. And
How?
I didn't even drop it from far. I just dropped it from off the kitchen table. That's it. These things are made to be fragile. They're like $900. Yes, but we would like you to spend it every year, please. They're made to break now.
Ship a phone from Alibaba or something. Asia phones. Use Android, don't use iPhone.
Right. Yeah, no, I have a Samsung Galaxy S10.
Samsung is overrated. They are Asia's version of iPhone. There's no use doing that. Go for
My new phone is
Redmi.
OnePlus.
Okay.
It'll be here in like a day.
Okay. At least you're gonna have a phone. Alright, so I
Yeah.
hope stream connection's better for you guys. Okay, that's fine. Alright, where
Is
were
it?
we?
Yeah, where are we?
Yeah, we were reminiscing the old
Um,
days. We're very old right now. Okay, and then, alright, so for all the people who do not know, okay, there are two things you need to know about Kit Kat. Okay, the first is that she has hearing difficulties, right?
Ah, yes.
And then the second is
I'm
that,
technically deaf.
yeah, she's technically deaf, but we are like music soulmates. We actually what bonded via K-pop, right?
Yes, yeah. I've liked K-pop for a long time. It helped me through figuring out all my sickness.
All right, and then the second thing that you guys have to know about her is that if you paid attention at the start of the stream when I actually flashed the Instagram page, it says over there that she's pansexual. So, okay, I don't think a lot of people know what's pansexual. So maybe you want to explain in simple
Ah,
terms.
so really simply, it just means that I like everybody, kind of.
What?
So, it just basically means that I respond by emotion, and very rarely does the gender of somebody or the identity of somebody ever play a part into anything. So, like, I'm not more prefaced to like female, and I'm not more prefaced to like male. And even if you're trans or anything else, I don't really focus on that or see that first. I see the person as a human being, as emotions, as like somebody I can bond with. And so I create a connection, and it's the connection first that matters. So,
Okay, so
yeah.
in basic English, she means that she's human being sexual. You are
Yeah.
if you are a human being, yeah, she kind of likes you already. Like to a certain percentage,
Yeah, you're
unless you
my type.
prove, unless you prove to be like a monster in a human skin, then you're like, nope, it's okay, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah. Then I actually, for me personally, the more strong personality is because I'm kind of a more soft personality. I almost get attracted to those because I'm like, hello. So that's kind of like my type. But there are a lot of times where that doesn't even matter either. Like the person's personality type will sometimes have very little to play into it. And it's just more of like the connection that you can create with the person. So pansexual really relies a lot. If you're like a romantic pansexual like I am, then you rely very strongly on just the connection that you create, and everything else doesn't matter.
Right, so hopefully that answers some of the questions. And I put here LGBT plus love because she doesn't just write BL. You write, what else do you
That's
write?
right. So I also write heterosexual, and I also write GL, but basically I kind of look at myself as a fantasy romance writer, and as long as it pretty much has fantasy or romance in it, sometimes just romance and no fantasy, I will have characters in it, and that's what I write. But like there are a lot of people who are specifically BL or GL or LGBTQ, but I kind of just go where my creativity takes me.
Right, so that's the difference between just purely BL and yaoi writers as well as LGBT romance writers. And basically, she just writes romance, but she doesn't see the gender of the romance that she writes in. It may or may not have fantasy, but it's generally romance. Right, so actually,
Yeah.
we had like romance writers came on this stream before. So I think Amy Ling was one of them. Sanskar is a huge romance writer, and I blame Sanskar for all my sufferings on Good Novel because she was like, "Hey, do werewolves! Hey, do CEOs! It sells!" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna join this competition," and then
Oh,
just like crashed. I was like, ah, "I hate this so much," but people like it, and I was like, "Why do you like
oh.
this?" Yeah, yeah.
I question that so many times. Sometimes when I see like the cover of a book that's just released on like tapas or any of these writing sites, and I stare at it and I'm like, huh, so
Yeah,
that's what's popular right now then.
it's like BL tropes and genres. Okay, before we delve into this is like hot topic for all of us. Right, so there's a question from Esther on stream.
Uh,
She's like, "Hey Kat, how best can you start a chapter on BL? Like, what should one put in?" Do you want to answer this or should I answer this?
Okay, so what can, like, how to start a BL book?
Yeah,
What's
first
important?
chapter.
Oh, I would say the most important thing is establishing your character and their voice. So you have to make sure that it's very clear. Like the also another thing that we talked about a lot when we were in these web novel calls was like make sure they're not walking around in a white box. So make sure you've established your character and that they're not living in a white box. Make sure you give like description of where they are, what's happening, why this person matters, because otherwise someone's going to drop your book. Because if the person doesn't matter and they can't connect to them, then what's the point in reading?
Okay, so basically what she says is there's no fucking difference with how you start any other ordinary book's first chapter. How you start another
Yes,
ordinary
yeah.
book's first chapter is how you start a first chapter on a BL book. It's the same shit.
Yep.
The only difference in BL is that two boys kissing. That's it. Okay, two boys in love. That's it. That is the promise. That is the whole shit
Yeah.
about BL. Everything else is the same as everything that you read and learned before. The only difference is that firstly, you must have the love in the BL, and secondly, you must have the B, which is the boys. It's called boys love BL. You must have boys and they must love each other. That's all. That's the only difference. But everything else is the same.
It depends on also if you're going to be writing smut for the first absolute chapter. Like if you're going to be like, "Hi, this is Kyle, and he's banging Sam right now," then you're good. You
That's
gotta
very
like
clear.
make some sense. Yeah, you gotta make it
That's
clear. And
that
then
is mostly how it starts. Remember, like the promo chapters on your manga, and it says BL, and then you see people going at it. Yeah, that's how you know it's BL. That's like the foolproof way to start. But other than that, there's no one to stop you in saying like, oh, you can't start with someone like playing the piano. No, you can, you can.
oh, totally, totally. In my first chapter of a completely different novel that isn't in these pictures here, it's called Wit to Taste, and the first chapter, my character is talking to his cat. He's not even talking to the other other male character in the book. He's talking to his cat. First chapter, so you can literally do anything.
Mhm. All right. So does that answer the question, Esther? I hope it does. Right, so maybe you want to share with us how you got to know BL. Because, like, every Fujoshi has skeletons in their closet.
Okay, so actually, oh gosh, I'm gonna show my age here. But when I was 15, I discovered Junjo Romantica, and it is a manga in in Japan. And at the same time, I was also discovering like Love Stage and all of these mangas that were very much BL, fresh off of Japan.
Which one actually pulled you in and said, come to the dark side? And then you're like, okay, I'm signing my name. Which was that?
It would have been Love Stage.
Eh, okay, okay.
Love Stage was just so cute and fluffy,
That is right.
and
Which
I
pairing do you like?
I love that dynamic.
Which one? The main couple or the older brother?
Ah, the main couple, man, the older brother is
Damn.
just like a juicy little side of it.
I prefer the older couple.
I do. I don't know. It's unfair to ask me because I feel like my heart's completely split into evenly because that one's just a big point in my life because at the time, so I come from a very bad family, and my parents are openly homophobic, and they raised me openly homophobic, and that's not how I feel, obviously, but they raised me that way, and so when I was 15 and I started having a crush on a girl, I was supremely confused and thought that I might be a broken person and there might be something wrong with me. So when I discovered like these BLs that had like two boys kissing and talking about like sex, and I was just like stunned that there were other people out there like me who were struggling to figure out their identity and also like coming to terms with liking someone of their own gender. And so it just really like caught on and kind of spoke to my soul a little. And so that's how I kind of fell into that. And then like I secretly liked it and kept it like in a hoarding kind of sense, like a dragon with a pile of treasure. Like just
Mm.
any like none of my friends knew, none of my family knew because it was this heinous crime to be like gay or to have any desires like that. And so it was like this thing that I hoarded in secret. Like whenever I had my first job and I like would save up money, it would go to buying these mangas and they would just be in a secret shelf in like my closet that nobody else could see, not even like people who knew me well.
Okay, I guess a lot of Fujoshis can actually attest to this and relate to this. It's like the thrill of liking something forbidden, you know? And then we have this
For me
secret underground
because yeah.
community. It's like the
Yeah.
one thing led to another, and now here I am. But don't tell my parents I'm not listening to music. I'm just listening to BLCDs. We've gone through that phase.
Oh, I've never ever listened to a BLCD. You can't get those over here.
You've never listened to one?
No,
What?
but I did have the pleasure of my fan club actually because I used to have a Discord. I shut it down, but they they went on like a call and I decided to hop in just to see what they were talking about. And these little brats were reading my novel aloud with sex scenes. And I was like 12 levels embarrassed and I could handle it. So
You need Jesus. Did you
most
tell
BL
them you're
I've ever
selling?
heard.
Yeah. Holy water for sale, okay? We all need to drink holy water every day because we are Fujoshis. But yes, this is how it happens. Damn, I'm gonna like send
Throw it
you.
over your shoulders and over the head.
I'm gonna like send you the BLCD for like the Chinese one. It's like a drama CD with like 2
Oh my goodness.
seasons. You can listen to it. It's on the internet. You don't need to download or buy or anything. It's there. It's free. It's called I Love Your Pheromones.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It was a thing. It's still a thing. You just need to know where to find it. Don't worry, Khalees
You
and
gotta
I.
take the deep dark recess.
Yeah. You haven't gone to the dark side like completely. You have to join me and Khalees like at the real bottom of it. I even told my students, I said, I'm going to hell when I die because I'm gonna take over the devil's office and establish a department for BL lovers myself. We deserve that.
That sounds like it could make a good book.
We deserve that. This is our fate, man. We're not going to heaven. We're rejected. Yeah, but it's
That's
okay.
okay, that's more fun.
It's like the once you convert over to BL living on the dark side, you never see romance the same way ever again. That's just true, you know. Like there are so many good
It's true.
BL stories out there that does better than Twilight. I can attest to that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even if there is
Even
no
has
smut,
like 0.6 or something. I was like, what?
so even if there's no smut, the story is like really, really intense, like really, really good. And even if you are not somebody who has ever dated or been in love before, you can relate to it on like a level that makes you cry and like, no, why does this happen to him? It's too cruel, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, you develop empathy even if you don't have one. Even if you're a cold-blooded killer, you're just like, these guys don't deserve this. Yeah.
Sobbing at the BL story.
Yeah,
You're like, they gave me the first time.
It's so good. It just makes you want to be like,
Yeah.
oh. So that's like every
That's so
Fujoshi's
cute.
story. Yeah. It's like the, and then on the other hand, you have the bam
Yeah,
wham, thank you ma'am, that kind of story.
Yeah, but even it's really funny because with BL, there's this like innocence almost because most people see it as slightly on the maybe taboo side. Like you gotta go to the dark recesses of the internet to find it kind of thing, right? And so even when they're like completely shredding their clothes off each other, they're like, oh, it's so cute. That's what the fans are doing it. So they're like ripping and mauling their like bodies. The fans are just like, oh, it's so adorable.
Yeah, I'm like a huge sucker for fluff.
Feels like that.
You either have the
I
hot
call it blue.
lemons, floof. Okay, you either have like the super super hot
Blue.
lemons or like the floofs. I'm more of the floof club. Not really the lemon club, but
Oh.
that's like explanatory because I recently discovered that I'm asexual. So yeah, it explains all.
In my stories, I'm actually well known through my readers that I have go from floof to the hardcore stuff very, very easily in the same novel, and they coexist lovely, like holding each other tightly. Both of them
She's a
marrying each other
master,
together.
master of all. Right. So maybe it's a good time to actually showcase what you actually write. Okay, I have this pulled up. Right, so initially when I told you that I know her from web novel, this is the one. So you can actually go here to web novel. Not sure if you are you still on web novel actually now, like currently?
I'm not updating as often as I do on tapas. I'm very frequent, almost once or twice a week I'm updating on tapas, but on web novel, I do still exist. When I remember, I get around to updating it occasionally, but it doesn't have all my stories. All my stories are on tapas, all my
Mm,
current ones. And so web novel does have some of my novels on there, but it's not all of them. It's just a couple.
okay, so I'll just show the readers. I didn't put the link to your web novel profile here, so they can check it out if they want from your website. Right. So I'm just gonna show your tapas. Right, so your tapas says here, so it's Cat Wilkinson, so you can take a look at this. Alright, so you have 12 written series over here. Right, so all her works here.
Yeah.
There's one that I know is completed. Tie Him to Me is completed. I guess the rest
Yeah,
then
the first novel and You Plus Me
You
equally
Plus
is
Me.
also completed the first novel.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones are on like they're ongoing. But with To Taste is a mini series, so I complete a whole novel and then I keep going. And same with Radiating with You. And so the first book of both of those are done. But I'm gonna continue on and keep writing more books onto there. So it will continually update until I'm done with the books. But technically with To Taste, the first book, and Radiating with You, the first book is complete on there. And you can read it in full, but there will be the next book
Mm,
continued on that one.
okay. Right, so do you like have it locked or did they not accept it?
Locked?
Yeah, like the Wattpad, they had this creator support thing whereby they lock chapters. Or is it like still on donations?
No, it's still in donations. You can click on me and it'll say donate to.
Ah, okay, because I know that you told me you were trending on first for a while. They still didn't give it to
I
you.
was for a whole month.
Yeah, I was like,
I
how did
know.
they not give you the option to lock your books? I know they okay, so it's a little bit
Oh,
different from Wattpad and not Wattpad, web novel and tapas. So it's like tapas you need to
yeah.
sign, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Tapas you need to find completely exclusive. They do not do non-exclusive, and they will reach out to you when you reach a certain milestone. And I guess my books haven't reached it on here. So Tie Him to Me is at like 120,000 maybe, and You Plus Me Equals is at like a little bit above that, I think. And I think you have to kind of reach almost 500,000 reads right now to kind of get by them. And then they'll kind of reach out to you and talk to you. And
Wow.
then they might offer, but again, it is exclusive. So you have to take it off of everywhere else and you can't offer
Mm,
it for sale in like paperback. So you could do like paperback on Amazon and still have the book available for sale on like for reading on tapas, I mean. So that's what I do right now. So I released the book on tapas and people are really enjoying it. I just remind them that yeah, you can get this in paperback as well on Amazon for your shelves, and the artwork's really pretty. And
mm.
sometimes there's secret chapters that aren't really done here. So that's what I do, but I wouldn't be able to do any of that if I did sign an exclusive. And yeah, they only contact you after 500,000. So
Have you tried like Patreoning advanced chapters instead?
I'm really bad at social media. And it's not like I'm super old or anything, but I'm pretty bad at social media with like
No, no.
Patreon
Patreon
and
can be scheduled.
convincing people.
No, Patreon can be scheduled. All you need to do is just, write, copy the same chapter, post it like, 1 week in advance on Patreon, and then schedule it on Tapas, like 1 week later or something. It's
Oh
not.
no, that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about the scheduling. I'm meaning the confidence to believe that
To tell the people, hey,
that,
if you want to read advance, pay a little bit more on Patreon. You're terrible at that.
yeah. Yeah, basically to be like, hey, there's this exclusive sex scene you can only get here on Patreon. Buy
Oh,
my stuff.
there's no difference in doing this than telling people, hey, paperback exists. There's no difference.
Smart ass.
Right? Your mind works really, really strange, but yeah. I was just
Thank
suggesting.
you.
So if you find the courage someday and you need help, let me know. Right? So you've done like so many platforms, and
Okay.
Patreon is not one of them. I am shook.
Yeah, I have not
So
done. I've sort of gone on there and created a profile, but I haven't really
hmm,
done
hmm,
much.
judging you 100%. Right? So of the different platforms that you've
I can
tried,
hear.
yeah, of the different platforms that you tried, rate them in order of 1 to whatever number it is, in order of what you like best. Like personally, which is your
Okay,
favorite?
so I would personally right now, I really am very fond of my fan base on Tapas, but I'm not so much fond of how they treat their novel writers.
Hmm?
There's a very clear, they're trying to head towards webtoons. You can tell they're trying to become webtoon 2.0, and so they're not very caring. And they've done a couple contests where they've been like novel contests, and then they haven't actually followed through on the prizes or actually contacting the winners and stuff like that for novels. And so they've slowly just stopped caring. Like they used to promote novelists, and now they don't anymore. And so I've been on for like 2 years on Tapas, and say I would say they are heading towards webtoons, so there might not be plausible to be a novel writer on here much longer.
Mm,
But also web novel does not treat the writer. Just putting that out there. It's like
it doesn't, which is
beware.
why you
They,
can try their non-exclusives first. I actually have tried good novel. That is, I've been telling you for like a while now.
I know I should try it.
Besides, non-exclusive completed on Good Novel pays you USD 50 if you publish there first, and then once it's completed, you can go for non-exclusives with like, Share Story, EMP, A&D for web novel and whatever not on Amazon. You should look into that.
Yeah.
Like I've been telling you the same
Yeah.
thing
I
that
have to
I tell everyone. This is a foolproof system if you're unhappy with just one, because why stick with one when you can have a harem of it, right? Every
That's
platform
true.
has
You
like,
can have a harem.
it's like they have pros and cons in every single one. So what you need to do to even the odds,
Yeah.
rather than choose, just get both or get all. Like, why not both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I did create a Wattpad profile because I was reading on there, but like I said, there was a lot of people telling me when I first started that the downfall was you wouldn't be taken seriously as a writer. And so that was then. I don't know about now. I don't write
Can you hear
on
my
there,
eyes
but
rolling? Can you hear my
no.
eyes rolling?
No, I have to get closer.
Yeah, let me tell you something about Wattpad. Although you might not be perceived as a serious writer, the community there is top class. For
Yeah.
BL, I mean, for BL. It doesn't matter if it's original or fanfiction, the community there is top class.
I will
Right?
have to check what
Okay,
and
let me
write some
just
stuff.
show you like a demonstration of what I mean on stream, like real quick. Okay, there are some really crazy people. Okay, this is my profile. There's some really, really crazy people in the, where is that? No. Okay, I can't remember. There was like, where is my story? Yeah, okay. Well, the UI is not the best, but still, where is my story? This one. Okay?
Oh, BUI is so terrible. I remember people talking about that.
They have like one line, okay? Let me just show you. It's one line, one freaking line, and then you have like 17 comments over there. And it doesn't make sense. So over here, not even this. I tell you, it's a sound effect, okay? This one is a sound effect, okay? And then you have comments like this. It's like, this is the kind of community that you want if you're a BL writer, okay?
Yeah, I
It's not that you're not taken seriously, it's just that we are too busy enjoying ourselves to take things seriously. It's not that you're not recognized as a writer, okay? You gotta correct that mindset. We don't give no fucks about people. We just do what we do. And yes, to Esther on stream, BL, okay, there are several platforms that I would encourage you to write BL, especially. Okay, Tapas is one of them, but like Cat says, it's not
yeah.
gonna be very good for novels. So if you're doing BL but you're doing like a webtoon kind of adaptation, go for it. And Wattpad, definitely. Okay, Wattpad accepts BL for fan fictions as well as originals, and they do well, so you can go for it. Another one that you could try if you're looking for a contract, I would suggest Good Novel because they specialize in FL and BL is one of them. They host one of the biggest BL writing competitions on Good Novel before. Let me just show you. Love Conquers All is an LGBTQ plus competition. Ta-da! And these are the winners. But of course, it's like all the werewolves on there because I don't know. Good Novel is kind of like a werewolf create. Like I don't know what's with werewolves and Good Novel. Okay, don't ask me. But they have BL over here. Let me just show you something else that is like slightly more BL. Nope. Werewolf again. Nope. Love stories. Nope. Erotica. Nope. Mafia. Where is the BL? I saw it at the LGBTQ plus. Here you go. Okay, they have this BL section. It is quite considerable, but you cannot compare it to web novel itself because anything sells on web novel.
Actually, it's interesting. On web novel, I was very, very popular. I was very at the top of the LGBTQ section
Yeah,
constantly. But it was funny, they didn't have that section when I started. They had BL and they just made it. So that's why it was easy to climb those ranks and get to the top. And on average, I was on the top 1 to 2 or in the top 5 at least. Probably, I would say 7 days,
yeah.
like every 7 to 8 days, I would bounce around in there, but I would never go down. And then sometimes something would happen and I would drop to like maybe 10, but it never went further than that. And that was just because the genre,
Very
the
new.
whole, yeah, it was brand new. So now they have LGBTQ and it's quite crowded in there, but
It's saturated,
I
but
would not recommend.
correct. Okay, it depends on the BL that you want to write. Okay, web novel has a web novel kind of style and readers. If you are not writing
Yeah,
BL combined with system or quick transmigration or cultivation or something like that sort,
yeah,
don't publish there. Okay, if your BL is really
yeah,
just
no,
traditional BL, go to web novel, go to good novel. These are the platforms that might do better for you. Web novel style of BL
for me,
is not so.
yeah, yeah. See, I fit better in tapas because I like my very first novel that I finished, not the first one I started writing, but the first one I finished was You Plus Me Equals, and it was a coming of age college drama romance. And so it was very sweet, very fluffy, and very much set in the real world. And that does not do well on web novel. But even so, I still got 1.2 million reads on that one. And I took it off there. It's
Correct.
not on there anymore. You can't read that one there. But um, it's really, if you want to get up there, if you want to get like 5 million and 10 million reads, if you want to be on the top trending constantly, never falling down, you have to add system and you have to add Izaki and all sorts of crazy things. It can't take place in the real world. You have to add all sorts of
Correct.
crazy
So if
tropes in
you
there.
Okay, so I'm gonna save Kit Kat like the explanation part of it because I've actually done streams on this. I've written blogs on it. It's in my free e-course. So if you're curious about how web novel
Oh.
works, you go and read that. Okay, so we're not gonna answer this in stream because this
Mm,
stream is solely about BL
yeah.
and not really BL like LGBT plus romance. So you can publish it there, but criteria exist. So like everything else, criteria exist. I'm not gonna tell you how to be. It's still going to be a minority, but it's a minority with a niche. It's a niche
Yep.
minority whereby the readers are always constantly hungry for quality content.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there are many kinds of readers looking for many kinds of things. There can be 1,000 smart books out there, but there will never be enough for the reader themselves. They are constantly on the lookout for more smart. So it doesn't matter. Okay, if you put it out there and it's good work,
True.
you will find your readers. And if you don't find your readers, the readers will find you. That's the beauty of LGBT plus. Okay, we are just that
Yeah.
hungry compared to like all the mainstream stuff. Because why? LGBT plus people are what we can say people who are like in a secret cult. We cannot publicly
Yeah.
announce ourselves, so we constantly search for other people alike in communities. And every time we
Yeah.
find a community, like we find communities through all sorts of things, content normally, online basically, right? So we have books, and then you'd see that all the readers in that book itself is like a cult. They have like different clans itself, they behave differently. So,
Yeah. It's actually interesting. That ties into one of the things that you had asked me about a while ago, and I don't think I got around to answering it, but actually in a completely different server I'm in an LGBTQ server on Discord, and one of the people on there was joining to support their LGBTQ friend. So they themselves were not, but they were supportive. And
ally.
so they were they were a straight person surrounded by gays. And that they had when they started reading and watching, so watching TV, movies, and dramas that have been released no matter where in the world, or what language they're in, as well as same with books, they noticed that like everybody was getting together with everybody else, and that everybody around them was gay. Like these people didn't seem to have very many straight friends, and it was one of the things that bugged her. And so it was kind of funny to explain and kind of talk to her and be like, that's the reason for that is because we normally stick to our own kind of, because we don't want to risk being exposed, being hurt, being labeled, being considered creepy or gross or disgusting. And so rather than take the risk of being turned into that grotesque person when you're not, you're just loving someone and it doesn't matter their gender, but being turned into some sort of grotesque monster for it, you just stick with people who are like you. So yeah, these two guys hooked up. Yeah, these two girls hooked up. Yes, you know them all. Are all of your friends gay? Kind of.
It is
It's kind of
similar, correct? It is similar of the with the online reader community. So if you go to any BL book, you would think that we would receive a lot of racist, homophobic, and all those hate kind of speech comments in remarks, right? No, it actually doesn't happen because the community is so overly positive
no,
over there.
not often.
Not often, yes, correct. The community
Yeah,
in those
because
books are
we're
so.
trying to.
Hello, are you still there?
No. Oh, you cut out completely. I lost you on hold for a
Yeah, I kind of
second.
guessed that the internet is not so great.
Welcome to 2002, guys.
Okay, if it cuts out again and you're saying something, just send me a Discord so I know. Right, so I was saying like the community there is so overwhelmingly positive and supportive that if anybody so much so say something bad or homophobic or toxic, they get slammed.
Oh, so much. It's kind of wonderful to see.
That is the difference between this and mainstream. Although we are a small community, we are spicy.
Yeah, but we had to get that way because so many people picked on us for it. Because it's so sad to say, but homophobia seemed to be like the normal and accepted and welcoming seemed to be like the taboo thing to do. And so, yeah, we just kind of stick with people who are like us, who understand us. And so, yeah, if everybody in your book is getting together with everybody else and everyone's gay, yeah, that's a real fact of life. I have a couple straight friends, but I can say I have a lot more LGBTQ friends than I do straight. So,
I think I need to say the opposite because I think not every, like a lot of my friends are straight, kind of, but I'm not. I think it's 50
yeah.
50 at this point because I didn't even know I was not heterosexual. But they kind of knew I wasn't. I was like, how'd you know? They were like, the signs were there. I was like, no, I thought puberty was late.
It just hasn't happened yet, guys.
Alright, so, okay, as a LGBT plus writer, how do you think you're normally perceived?
I am not really out with a lot of people in my everyday life being this kind of writer. It sounds so icky to say it that way, but I just write what I am. And it's unfortunate that I can't share that side with people who know me. But online, all of my friends who are online who are part of my community don't really care. It's like, cool, that's nice.
Alright,
But
so,
it's not something I can open up with to my everyday people that, like I work with. So I have 3 jobs. One of them is running my own business from my house with my art and stuff. And then the other is working in an office and at a cafe. And while Canada is technically welcoming to LGBTQ, it's very much overplayed in the media as some sort of massive hysteria thing where everyone's just welcoming and accepting, but it's not. we we really are very much still trying to process it. And so there's a lot of places who are like, they put a sticker up on their window to be like, we accept LGBTQ people here. And in my brain, I'm just sitting there going, you shouldn't need that sticker. We're just a human being walking in here. It's not like I have it tattooed on my front head that I'm pansexual. You don't need to know my sexuality to send me a copy. So it's kind of hard. So you wouldn't exactly go about being like, I'm LGBTQ and I write LGBTQ things. You would just kind of, everybody flies under the radar here. And it's kind of like this unspoken rule to be like, in June, we celebrate Pride Month. And the rest of the time, can you all shut up and pretend you don't exist? So,
it's
very much that way.
really relatable. But I guess it's the
Yeah.
same almost everywhere in the world. Because it's
Mhm.
recent thing, right? LGBTQ movement has only been like, what, 10, 20 years? Like recent stuff. Like back,
Yeah,
way before. It was
exactly.
not made known. That's why when I was
Yep.
17, I had no idea what I was. I was like, yeah, I'm straight. I like boys.
Right.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I questioned
Right.
myself.
And
I'm
you have
like,
like this whole,
yeah. And then I was like, do I like girls?
yeah.
Because all the boys suck. And then after that, I'm like, girls don't work either. Do I like cats? Yeah, I like cats. So maybe I'm like, I don't know, like, what's wrong with me. I was like, yeah. And eventually it came to the conclusion that, yeah, maybe I'm not that tall. So I haven't, like, had my real puberty yet. So this is alright. So I'm waiting for puberty to come. That was,
That's fantastic.
that was how it is until, like, recently. Because asexual content is not like really out there. Like Evans was founded like 10 years before, and back then I had no idea because they were like, so
Mhm.
you cannot find them unless you were looking for it. And then
Yeah.
I signed up for Tinder. I signed up for Coffee Meets Bagel. I signed up for, what was that again? Okay Cupid. And okay, in my
Oh,
in all these dating apps, I was just trying to find, like, the ability to see if I'm dateable. And then I came across OkCupid where they had all these like list of sexualities, and that's how I found out. I was like, what the hell is all this? Like when I see a word I don't understand the meaning of, as a writer, I need to find out. So I went to find out, and I
right.
was like, oh, asexual is a thing. Hell yeah, this is me right now. The
So
ha-
funny when I actually revealed to my one friend that I was pansexual. She wrote, "What is that? You guys use so many terms, and I'm too scared to look them up because Google tracks everything, and I don't want them recommending stuff like that to me." And I was like, "Okay, kind of offensive, but I won't be offended." And then I just kind of explained each thing to her, and I was like, "I'm a writer. I look everything up. I've looked up how to kill people, and I'm pretty sure I'm on some sort of watch list."
don't look at the
Everything's been
internet
looked up.
history.
Yeah. No, look at the internet history. Everything has been Googled.
Hmm. We grown used to knowing where to find things that we need over time, but yeah, do not look in our internet history. We are not
Exactly.
what we seem like. Okay, promise you, promise you. Okay, I'm not interested in buying grindstones. Nope.
Right. Nope. But we just have these search histories.
Yeah. Okay, so last but not least, okay, this one that you recommended. Have you actually read this like agreement for being gay for 30 days? Did you read this one or like it's
I
something you
have.
want to read?
I have. No, no,
Really?
no. That is like my favorite novel. Okay, so outside of like it's my favorite BL novel for the fact that when I was going through a time when when like a ton of people around me were just kind of slowly fading me out of their lives. And so because I got pretty sick for a while, and I was like that person who was no longer fun to hang out with. And so I kind of needed something to not feel so lonely when I was going in and out of the hospital so many times. And I kind of gravitated towards my secret, like, love of BL and my K-pop obsession. So those two things kept me afloat when I was feeling very scared and alone. And that book I found on the very day that they told me that I was losing my hearing and that they would have to do an emergency surgery to try and save my ear,
Mm-hmm.
and that they weren't sure if the surgery was going to turn me into brain damage in the way that like I wouldn't be like there's a possibility, a very high, over 50% possibility that the surgery could go wrong and they could nick something and I wouldn't be able to leave the hospital bed. And so I was very terrified, alone, and had nothing and nobody to talk to at the time. And so I kind of came across that on, I think the site's Novel Updates, which is, I don't support it. They just steal everyone else's novels without their permission. Don't support that site. But I found that book on that site and it's translated Chinese novel. And I just fell in love with like the acceptance and like the bickering these two had. So they're very much a bickering, angry, enemies to lovers couple. And I just fell in love with the way that they talked to each other and they were so open at the same time as being closed off. And it kind of resounded in me like I wanted somebody to be like, I'm really angry. I need to scream and yell into the void. And I also want someone to hold me right now. And I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody. So seeing it in the novel kind of made me like, these are my people.
You found your tribe.
Yeah, so I found that book and I read it pretty much like all the way up to the translations updating at the time. And it went 2 years without updating. It's recently started updating again. I know it's like a crime. My God. But it went 2 years without updating. But at the time, I read everything right up to the last update. And they were like, okay, you gotta hand over your phone. We're wheeling you in right now, kind of thing. So that was like the last thing. Like if I didn't wake up as myself, that was the last thing I was reading. So it has a special place in my heart because it was like I was scared that I wasn't going to wake up as the person I went into the hospital.
Mm.
And of course, everything turned out fine, but that was the final thing I did. It's kind of fun. I read the album for like finding out whether I was going to return as myself or not.
Well, everybody has like one of these moments whereby you cling on to something because you were there and like resonated with you and it became like something special. So this one is it for her. So,
Yeah.
mm, right, it's currently like on Wattpad. Is it
Yeah.
like the full thing or is it still in translation progress? Cause
Okay. So it is on Wattpad. I think I have the link for the Wattpad one.
uh huh.
The Wattpad one is like it's pulled off of directly from the translator's site.
Mm-hmm.
So the translator herself, she's the one doing it. So she's translating it from um, Mandarin over to English, and she's doing it on Wattpad. So this is her translation, her own. English is
Mm-hmm.
her second language, so it's she does struggle at some point
Mm.
because English isn't her first language. But she did take that super long break, and then I noticed it was updating again, and I was like, "What? There's new chapters?" So like was on that like a dog, but there's
Following.
only two chapters.
Ah,
There's only two chapters new in the past
it's not
1.5
completed
years. So she
then.
no, it's not completed, and she's not finished translating. Maybe she's going super slow. She is in university, so I understand. But
Mm.
man, it feels like it's taking forever. I'm like, I've written 5 books.
Okay, we're breaking off really bad.
Translate this. Oh, I would say I've written like a lot of books in the time it's taken her to translate, so I've been a little anxious, but that's just because I'm excited. So
You are like okay. You need to calm down. You are going to sleep. I don't think you'll be able to sleep if you're this hyped.
yeah, no, I have trouble sleeping on a good day.
Oh man.
Probably because of how many times I'm working doing different things. So I normally take an hour to fall asleep. So either way, I wouldn't be sleeping.
Okay, good to know. Alright, so this is the book that she recommends. For people who do not know this and you want to give BL a try, this is her recommendation from someone who is like crazy over BL. I think that's self explanatory. Right, so, okay, quick questions before we wrap up the stream because I feel like you need time to calm down.
Mm.
Right, so, okay, okay, BL
True.
comes from many, many countries. So there are different kinds of BL. There's like Thai kind of BL, Japan kind of BL, Korea, China, America. Okay, different countries. What is your favorite?
So Japanese BL was the one that got me into it, but I would say I prefer the most Korean BL. It's softer side. They're struggling to understand that
Softer?
LGBTQ people. Yeah.
How? How?
So it's
How?
okay.
Mm,
So let me kind of touch on a very sensitive topic right now. So Canada is the land of the free in a lot of ways, and so in Japanese BL, Thai BL, it's very very common to have the main storyline be rape or non-consent, and
uh,
so that's one of the reasons I got into writing BL and those kind of books was because I was kind of like reading these things and then stopping and going, I've ran into another one where I'm watching this 16-year-old fall in love with this 25-year-old and he's about to be raped, you know? And so it was just a little sensitive topics because we're very much against that here in this country, which is a good thing. But I also understand how some countries might not have caught up on those. And so I don't judge. I don't think it's a bad thing. I understand if people enjoy a little domestic flavor.
mm, yeah.
Oh no.
That's the reason why
Yeah.
a lot of fan
So
fictions exist because like the work is great, but the rape culture exists. We remove that from it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so South Korea, I noticed that they struggle with even recognizing that LGBT people exist. They're like, oh no, you're just not a thing. You're a fiction of my imagination. And so, so now that LGBTQ people are being sort of slowly accepted, oh, you're a real thing, you're not a ghost. They're taking it very slow, and it's like hand holding, and sometimes they look at each other slyly, and you're like, oh, they're flirting. Maybe they might just be friends. And so I like it for the slower pace that doesn't include the rape and the non-consent,
Mm.
personally.
It's very hard
But
to
there's,
find.
yeah, it's hard to find. Like even the first one that I ever read, the Junjo Romantica
That one
BL
was
in from
also, it was subtle, but it was there.
it's
Season
oh,
one.
it's not subtle in some of them.
Like
Some
the
of it's very
animated
clear.
version, season one was like kind of subtle, censored, kind of. I mean, Misaki was being an S. No, not Misaki. What was that? Usagi was being Usami.
Usagi.
Usami was being an S.
Yeah,
Season two
yes,
onwards
yeah, but
got
in the
better.
actual manga, it's very clearly non-consensual,
Oh,
so they don't. Yeah, so and I had access to the manga. I didn't have access to the animation first, so I had the manga first, and because I had that, it was like, oh,
yeah, that
so if
oof.
that's happening.
Same with
Yeah, and
Viewfinder.
I'm not afraid of having very dominating male in sex and foreplay in your books. Like I'm not against that. That is hella sexy. But I do believe that there should be like a mutual, like even if it's a wink wink, nudge nudge, a lick of the lip, something that says, go for it, babe.
Consent is sexy.
Yes, consent is sexy. Yeah.
Right, so we condone rape culture. That's the one thing I think the LGBT plus romance side can actually improve on. But
Yes.
everything
Yes, that's a
else is
big
great.
one.
Everything else is great. It's just the rape culture.
Yes, the rape culture is very big. And also the other one I would say that seems to happen kind of often is underage to overage. And that can
Shota.
be good too, but yeah, you got to make sure that like your 15-year-old falling for your 40-year-old, maybe just change their ages just a little bit, please. You know, like don't do
It's like
that.
the daddy kind of kinks, you know. I don't know why, but it's like okay, there are
Yeah,
levels of fucked up in like non-LGBT plus books, and there are different kinds of
yeah,
levels of fucked up in LGBT plus books. Like there, well, fucked up books continue to exist. Taboo books continue to exist. Books that just touch on things that make you generally uncomfortable exist, but it's
mm,
significantly more, I would say, in LGBT plus books for some reason.
yeah.
It's like that because they think that it's a
I,
minority and then it's okay to do this. It's not.
well, I think a lot of the times, like one of the things in Thai BLs, like I've been watching them for probably 6 or 7, no, yeah, 6 years now. Thai BLs, I've been watching them, but I've been reading them for almost as long, and I've noticed that they seem to have the idea that oh, we're bringing representation, but at the same time, we can't show that it is good. So the
Um,
gay person, the gay person has to get sad ending, or they have to go through obscenely bad amount of things that just wouldn't happen in a regular heterosexual relationship. So like, oh, he has to be gang raped because he's gay, basically, and it's this logic that you can't even understand why the writer was thinking it, but they're like, oh no, I'm bringing representation, and so I'm glad to see that we're slowly stepping away from that, but it is a slow uphill battle. And I understand why some people have this desire to make the taboo happen in their books because maybe they're not feeling so fully in control of their own lives right now. The world is a hectic and scary place.
hmm.
But yeah, I still can't condone it as a writer. You won't find that in my books. You will find some very domineering sexy men, but you will not find any rape or non-consent or shota because it's not
Correct.
something I'm comfortable with.
Usually, this is not just a LGBT plus romance problem. It's a romance problem in general. In FL,
Mhm.
like regular romance, this happens as well.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah. Like you have oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. the word for it right now, when like you have full blown like almost like late 30s people crushing on like 15-year-old schoolgirls. Like
Yeah,
that happens in female like books as well. So there's no escaping people who feel like doing that.
correct. And then there's a
They're just
lot of
gonna write.
those unhealthy, I would say unhealthy relationship behaviors being portrayed in common media because it's popular.
Ah,
Yeah, that's what Amy Lynn was saying as
yeah.
well when she came on. She was like, I want to write romance books because she and her husband has like really
Mm,
god tier level of romance that everybody wants to have, you know? So she writes books like that
yeah.
and she like publishes it because she wants people to understand that the reality of love doesn't have to hurt and doesn't have to be toxic or unhealthy. You don't have to be unhappy first in order to find happiness.
Yes. My best friend, she absolutely adores Twilight, and she tried so hard. She like suckered me down and practically take me to the floor to watch the first movie. And when when whatever his face is comes in through the window for the really deadpan face girl, what's her name? I can't remember the main character's
Belle,
name. Oh God,
Isabel,
there we go. But
Isabel.
oh yeah, yes, yeah, I think that's it. And so she's like sleeping, and he just climbs into her house and is just like watching her, and she wakes up and she goes, "You're in my room," and he's like, "Yeah." And just, do you do that often? And it like struck me so like in the face when I was watching that I can't forget that scene. Like I've never seen anything or read any of the Twilight books, so
Somebody called the
haven't read them.
police.
Haven't.
Yeah, it
Yeah, and it's instead she's just like, okay. She's like that. She just has this face like that's odd. I'm just sitting there going like, what? He just broke in and was like creeping on you, and she's just like, I'm in love with you now.
yeah, it's not very relatable, healthy, or accurate representation of how
No,
romance works. It's a fantasy of someone who's not been in true love. That's what I'll say.
yes, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's a possessive love. They've been in a possessive love and they desire that
There,
possessiveness. So
basically,
yeah.
romances. A lot of those. Okay, how to tell a good tier romance from a not so good tier romance is that your main characters are not main characters. If your main characters do not behave like main
Mm,
characters, that is how you know a good novel is going to be born. If you cannot
yes,
relate to the person you are reading about, that is a terrible sign. Because
yes,
the
yeah.
story is just going to be spun around plot armor. That's it. Mm,
Yep.
it's a telltale sign. I know it's like a writer kind of secret from one writer to all my newbie writers and people who want to actually learn how to write great stuff. Yeah, character chemistry is a thing. It doesn't
Mm,
matter what kind of like genre you write. Your character cannot be behaving like a
yes,
main character. Your character is as human as you and I are. It's as boring as you and I are. But the series of events that they go through is what makes it special. That's the difference.
yes,
So you
yep,
got to
exactly so.
put yourself in a shit situation and be like, well, shit, what am I gonna do now? That kind of
Hmm.
reaction. It's not like when you're suddenly being transported to a shit situation. You're like, I got this. No, no, no.
Yeah. Let me just pull up my sword and shield. I've got this.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So,
really know exactly what to do.
right. So, is there any other questions from like the one viewer currently? Is there any questions before we end the stream? Basically, there is not much difference between an LGBT plus romance book and a regular romance book and any other book. It's just different kinds of passions, I'd say. And now there are two viewers watching it. Welcome. It's almost the end of the stream. Do you have any questions that we have, like, I don't know. I'll give you 5 seconds.
5 seconds. That's not much time.
No, no, no. This was
Oh
like
my god.
it's a recommendation by Void Towers. It's not really my style. He was like, oh, I sometimes abruptly end the stream because I don't know how to end it. It will last for like another 30 minutes if I don't. I was like, got it. Okay, 5 seconds up, right? Bye-bye, guys. That is my